Stealing headlines recently, Charlie, when it comes to lucrative opportunities in East Africa for investment has been the oil and gas space and oil and gas discoveries off the East Coast. How do you rate investor appetite for East Africa right now?
A lot. Obviously in the oil and gas sector and general minerals in East Africa, there's a lot of interest. But I think it's not only in those sectors as well. There's obviously big investment opportunities in other areas. We're talking about an economy in the East Africa region where the average growth rate is over 5%, 5 to 6%, and it has been for a number of years. And so obviously with lower returns, particularly in the developed world, there's been a lot more interest in the last 2 years in East Africa. And so it's looking at other sectors as well. So for instance, the consumer market sector is also very, very important as well. Telecoms. There was a large investment where Bharti Airtel have actually come in and headquartered themselves in Nairobi to cover the whole of Africa. A number of other large multinationals are coming in as well. It really has been another dimension to it as well is also the issue of the regional market. There's been a lot more focus now in actually developing the common market within East Africa as part of the East African community. And that will throw up a lot more opportunities, I think, with hopefully the implementation of free movement of goods and services. And whereas in the past it used to be looking at individual countries, and now I think it's really important to actually consider it as a region.
Countries themselves, though, are making headlines of their own. If you look at the likes of Rwanda, for example, phenomenally rated in terms of ease of doing business in that region. What kind of ripple effect is that, that characteristic of a country having on the rest of the region?
Rwanda itself is a big influencer in the East African community, and the progress that has been made. I think it's a bit of peer pressure, I think, on the other countries as well, and I think you're seeing that now. It's improvement. I mean, Burundi, for instance, has just shot up in terms of the doing enabling environment for doing business index, the recent World Bank report. So yes, it does have a ripple effect, and I think just going back to the whole thing, it should be looking at the market, whereas before it's been rather fragmented. We're now talking about population of 120, 130 million people, and with the possible joining of Ethiopia in the future, that's another 80 million people. That's actually quite a sizable market. I think we also have to look at the fact that although at the moment it's coming from quite a low base, if we're looking at the East African economy, it's probably equivalent to the size of Croatia, for instance. But that sustainable growth rates year on year will be obviously very important. And also I think of the demographics as well. That most of the people are young people, there's aspirational class, so there's a development of the middle class growing. So all those will provide business opportunities. There's another, of course, dimension to it, is that more and more you're seeing South-South trade as well. So the interest of particularly India and China in various sectors. Particularly, obviously, there is a major infrastructure deficit in East Africa, and there's big investment opportunities in that.
Okay, I've been reading through, Philippe, that KPMG is working to establish business corridors of Africa-savvy resources that are able to have informed conversations with clients about opportunities and risks when it comes to investing on the continent. In your view, how much work is to be done in that regard in developing resources?
Well, we do have a lot of challenges to address, particularly on people. We have to build and educate more people. We have to create expertise so we can to be available, to be sent, and to be deployed or to be assigned to different tasks in the country. This challenge have been addressed during the last 10 years, and now we see some results of that of that action.
So with that progress having been made, how at this stage of the game are you weighing up the investment risk versus opportunity when it comes to Mozambique specifically?
Okay. Well, particularly in Mozambique, there is a lot of opportunities, particularly in the area of energies, in the area of natural resource, particularly coal, gas, and oil. There are some risks too, taking into consideration that it's a country which is coming out of a civil war, which took more or less 16 years. And the effort to build a peace culture within the country is being made, but there is also, to a certain extent, risk of any uprise which can happen within the country.
Of course, Mozambique has been attracting a lot of investment from miners as investors scramble to get a piece of that pie. You know, the country's lucrative coal deposits, for example, and management of those resources becomes imperative. How do you rate the management of risks in the extractive industry so that this resource does not become a resource curse?
Well, the government have been doing its best in that regard. Recently, it was enacted certain laws which allow more bigger participation of local people in this area. There is a big awareness about the need to make sure that the wealth can be better distributed among Mozambicans, and this will contribute to create a peaceful environment and extending the number of stakeholders in those in all those initiatives will, to a certain extent, make sure that people participate and peace can be ensured among people.